My dad handed me a folder and said, "I used your college fund to pay off your sister's mortgage. You'll thank me later." I just smiled and replied, "If you think so." 40 minutes later, his phone rang and I watched his face freeze as the bank said the transfer had been reversed. Minutes later, headlights pulled in. "My name is William. I'm 30 years old, a welder out of Union County. The kind of guy whose shirts come home with burn marks and metal dust in the seams. I work night shifts most weeks. I'm the one you don't notice at family parties until something breaks and needs fixing. I'm the older kid. My sister Grace is the golden one. She's 28, a marketing manager, photo-ready smile, the kind of person my parents still introduce with a list of her last 3 promotions. When they introduce me, it's when "This is Will, he's handy." We grew up in a small yellow house with a rusting swing set out back. My dad, Tom, was a foreman. My mom, Diane, taught 5th grade. Money was always a topic, even when no one said the word. If we were at the grocery store and I grabbed a brand-name cereal, Mom would put it back and say, "Budget, honey." If Grace wanted dance lessons, somehow the budget stretched. By the time I was 16, I was stacking pallets after school for cash. I bought my own boots. When the muffler fell off Dad's truck, I crawled under and wired it until payday. That's what I do. Patch things to the next day. I'm not bitter, or I wasn't, not really. I just learned the rhythm. Grace gets the spotlight. I get the broom. I told myself it was fine. I like working with my hands. I like being useful. Last Sunday, I pulled into my parents' driveway after a 12-hour shift. The porch light was on, the same dented mailbox leaning a little too far toward the street. Mom had texted, "Family dinner." Nothing heavy. I should have known better. Nothing heavy in our house means someone brought a truckload. We ate meatloaf and overcooked green beans. Grace talked about an upcoming brand summit. Mom laughed at every sentence. Dad kept checking his phone. I watched his thumb hover and wondered what number he was waiting for. After dinner, he asked me to follow him into the den. The carpet is the same one from when I was 8. Brown, flattened, smells like old dust. He took a manila folder from the desk and held it like a prop. "Will," he said, soft but rehearsed, "I used your college fund to pay off your sister's mortgage. You'll thank me later." I stared at him. The room hummed with the fish tank filter. Somewhere in the kitchen, a dish clinked. I thought about the boots I buy 2 pairs at a time because the soles split by month 3. I thought about the envelope I keep in my toolbox with emergency cash taped shut. I smiled. It felt strange on my face. "If you think so," I said. He blinked like he was waiting for me to explode. I didn't. I opened the folder. Bank printouts, a wire transfer, dates I recognized, my name printed as beneficiary. Grace's lender highlighted in yellow. Mom poked her head in. "Isn't it good news? We're keeping the house in the family." Grace's voice floated from the hall, bright and careless. "Thanks, Will." Something heavy shifted inside me, like a beam I'd carried for too long finally slipping off my shoulder. I closed the folder. I set it carefully on the desk. I nodded once as if we'd finished a simple chore. "Okay," I said. That was the first small sound of something cracking. The college fund was a story I grew up with. There was an account started when I was born. Granddad put in the first $500. Dad added here and there. There were rules, for William's education only. When I graduated high school, I didn't go to college. I tried a semester at community, dropped it. Welding school made more sense. Dad signed papers to convert the plan into an education savings account for my trade schooling. I used a slice for certification. The rest sat. I asked once when I was 22, "If I don't use it, what happens?" Dad said, "It's still yours. We'll figure it out." Then he added, "Don't let money make you selfish." That year, Grace needed a used car to commute. The budget stretched. I gave her my old Honda for $1,000 less than I could have sold it for. Because family. Dad told me I was a good brother. He didn't offer to refill the difference. The list goes on. At 24, when the water heater died, Dad called me at 11 p.m. "You've always been good with this stuff." I drove over, installed the used unit I found the next morning, paid for it on my card because we'll square up. 2 months later, Mom said, "We're tight this month." We never squared up. At 26, I did 3 weekends of labor helping Grace and her fiancé, Colin, refresh their starter house, new railing, patched drywall, kitchen backsplash. Colin's contribution was pointing at tile samples. At the end, they gave me a $50 gift card to a chain restaurant I don't go to. I said thanks. I meant it, kind of. I keep things easy. Easier to be the guy who shrugs. When Grace got married, my parents paid for a venue and a live band, because she deserves it. I welded a simple arch out of square tube for the ceremony, primed and painted it. On the day, Grace hugged me and whispered, "You're the best." Dad lifted a glass and said, "To family." I stood in the back, thinking about the invoice I was never going to send. 3 months ago, I got a text from Mom. Family meeting Sunday. Big news. I had just finished a 2 a.m. job repairing a gate at a plant that had to be backed up by shift change. I wanted to sleep all Sunday, but I went. The big news was that Grace and Colin had upgraded to a bigger house. It's a stretch. But it's a great school district, Mom said. Dad added, "It builds generational wealth." I glanced at the numbers on their printout. Stretch was generous. Their mortgage payment looked like a joke with too many zeros. I said nothing. Dad said, "We're so proud of Grace's drive. She's always been like that." The cracks started showing fast. 2 weeks later, Mom called. Light voice over heavy words. "Grace is a little behind with closing costs. Remember that college fund? It's just sitting. It would be so helpful to free some of that." "It's for education," I said. "You used what you needed," she said. "And you know it's all family money. We kept that account alive all these years, not you." I didn't answer. She texted later, "Think on it." I did think. I thought about 4 a.m. alarms and the sweet stink of flux smoke and how my palms looked like they belonged to a man 20 years older. I thought about how many times I'd been helpful while everyone else got celebrated. A week after that, Dad dropped by my apartment. He stood in my doorway, big man filling the frame, not asking to come in. "It's the right thing," he said. "Grace is building a home. You can do your schooling on your own." "You always do," I asked. "How much?" He said too casually. "Only $3,500. We're not taking it all." I laughed. "It surprised both of us, only," I said. He bristled. "Watch your tone." I looked at his boots. They were clean. Mine were not. "No," I said. He stared. "Mom tried the soft route later. If you love your sister, you'll support her. We all sacrificed. You're not a child." Grace texted me a photo of a farmhouse sink. "Imagine family dinners here. Thank you." I didn't reply. And then came last Sunday. The folder, the line. "I used your college fund to pay off your sister's mortgage." Used. Like the weather. Not stole, not took, used. He said it like he was killing a spider for me. I sat with the folder in my lap while Dad launched into a long speech I didn't fully hear. Something about keeping assets in-house. Something about investing in the child who actually has kids. Something about you never liked books anyway. He did his favorite thing, making principles sound like facts. Mom hovered, chiming in with, "We'll make it up to you." Grace had her head around the door, bright as a light bulb. "You're saving me, Will. We'll put your name on the deed one day." Colin didn't bother to show up. He sent a thumbs up emoji. Here's a detail no one expected me to know. That account wasn't a piggy bank with Dad's name solo. It was an education savings plan with Dad as custodian and me as the designated beneficiary. Last year, a bank officer at my credit union explained to me, because I asked, that if anyone tried to distribute funds for a non-qualified purpose without my consent, there were steps. There were forms. There were reviews. I went quiet. I don't yell when I'm angry. I make lists. I nod, I leave. At 9:12 p.m., I excused myself and stepped outside on the porch. The air cool, the porch light buzzing. I called the number on the back of the plan statement and then the number for the bank that received the wire. I said the words I had written on a sticky note taped inside my wallet. I am the beneficiary. I did not authorize this transfer. This is a misuse of funds. The woman on the line was calm. She asked me 10 questions. I answered 10. She said, "We see the wire. We see the custodian. We see the purpose listed as housing expense. That's not a qualified distribution for your education. We are placing a hold and escalating." I didn't tell my parents. I went back inside and helped Mom wrap leftovers like muscle memory. Dad poured himself a whiskey. Grace took a selfie in the kitchen holding a spoon like a microphone. At 9:54 p.m., Dad's phone rang. He glanced down, half smiling, expecting someone to tell him he was a hero. He answered. His face changed. He walked into the den. The door almost closed, but not quite. Yes. Yes, this is Thomas. No, it's a family matter and I'll hold. No, you don't understand. It's for my daughter's mortgage. Yes, I'm the custodian. Beneficiary? He's right here. No, he doesn't need… Wait, reversed? Reversed to where? The word hung in the air like a smell. Reversed, he came out red. What did you do? I made a call, I said. You think you're clever? He snapped. You think you're hurting me? You're hurting your sister. Grace appeared like a cue. Is this a joke? Her voice broke on the last word. We close on Friday. I shrugged. The smallest movement I had. It wasn't your money. Mom's eyes filled fast. How could you be so cruel? I said nothing. I'd learned the power of that in the plant, standing beside a cooling weld. Sometimes the best thing is to let it set. Dad's phone rang again. Unknown number. He picked up, listened, said, yes, we're home. He hung up, swallowed, and glared. The room went quiet enough to hear the fish tank bubbling. Minutes later, headlights pulled into the driveway. 2 sets, bright, urgent, too fast. Grace and Colin came through the door without knocking. Colin went straight to Dad, jaw tight. The bank called me. The wire bounced. They're saying fraud. What did you tell them? I told them the truth, I said. Grace turned to me like I'd kicked her dog. We'll stop playing. This is our house. You know we planned everything around that money. Your house, I said. My money. Dad lifted his hands like a referee. Everyone calm down. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't move. I've seen enough hot metal to know when to keep my hands steady. The account has my name on it, Dad. Beneficiary. That word means something. You can't convert it into a grace fund because you feel like it. He tried logic as a weapon. We funded it. We deposited for years. You also said it was for my education, I said. You said it was mine if I needed it. You didn't need it. He barked, I'm a welder. I said, calm. That's right. And I'm also a person who wasn't asked. Grace wiped her eyes angrily. You're punishing me for being successful. I almost laughed. Grace, I've been hauling your patio furniture across lawns since you were 22. I've got nothing to punish you for. I'm tired, Colin snorted. Just admit you're jealous, I looked at him. Of what, adjustable rate debt? Dad stepped closer. You will authorize the transfer back, William. No, I said. He went quiet, like the word stunned him. We weren't a no family. We were a we'll figure it out family, which always meant I'd figure it out. Mom tried one more angle, soft voice, hands out. Honey, the family needs this. We'll pay you back. Grace will put your name on the deed. Isn't that the same? I shook my head. No, deed shares are not education funds, and I don't want a corner of your house. I want my boundary respected, Dad scoffed. Boundary? Where'd you learn that word? You think you're better than us now? I met his eyes. I learned it at work. You weld within a marked area, or the sparks take something with them. Silence. The kind that hurts. Grace whispered, so you'd rather see me lose the house? I chose my words carefully. I'd rather see you live within what you can afford. And if you can't, then you adjust, like I always have. Dad laughed once, humorless. So this is revenge? No, I said. This isn't about revenge. This is about closure, he stared. Closure? Yeah, I said. I'm closing the part where I'm the emergency fund with a pulse. No one moved. The fish tank gurgled. Colin finally said, low and ugly, we'll sue? For what? I asked. For keeping what's legally mine. Grace looked at Mom, then back at me, voice sharp. You will regret this. I nodded toward the folder on the desk. Maybe, but I'll regret it on my own dime. Dad's phone rang again. He stared at the screen, the bank. He didn't answer. His shoulders sagged a little. The room felt smaller. I took my coat from the chair. I'm going home. Don't you dare walk out, Dad said. I'm not walking out, I said. I'm stepping back. And I did. Monday morning, 6:10 a.m. My phone lit up with 12 missed calls. Mom 5, Dad 3, Grace 4. I ignored them and pulled on my boots. The plant smelled like hot steel and coffee. I like that smell. It's honest, by lunch the texts were coming in batches. Mom, we can work this out. Please answer. Grace. They're threatening to postpone closing. Do you understand what you've done? Dad. Be at the house at 7. I wasn't. At 7, I was at my kitchen table running numbers. The reversed funds sat in a holding pattern. The plan administrator sent me an email using words like, Review, documentation, non-qualified purpose, and restoration to beneficiary. I printed everything. I put it in a clear folder. I don't like manila. I changed the contact info on the account to my phone and email. I set up two-factor. I added a password phrase so long it felt like a joke. I'm not the family TM plus 7 numbers. I stopped at the credit union on Tuesday morning and sat down with the same woman from last year. She remembered me. You did the right thing, she said. Document. Don't argue. Let the process work. I worked, I slept. I let my phone buzz in a drawer. On Wednesday, my cousin Nora called from a number I didn't recognize. They're saying you sabotaged Grace's life, she said, straight to it. Aunt Diane told Grandma you hacked the bank. I used the phone number on the statement, I said. If that's hacking, we're all criminals, Nora sighed. I'm sorry. This is insane. On Thursday, Dad showed up at my apartment. He doesn't knock and he pounds. I opened the door and stood in the frame. He looked tired in a way I haven't seen. Like a man who finally noticed the weight he's been carrying is mostly pride. Come home, he said, like I was 12 and past curfew. We'll talk like adults. We are, I said. He glanced at the floor. Your mother hasn't slept. That sounds hard, I said, and I meant it. But I'm not responsible for her sleep. His jaw tightened. You think you're righteous? No, I said. I think I'm done. He started to say something, stopped, tried again. Grace could lose her rate lock. I could have lost my future, I said. You told me that account was for me. If you wanted a family pool, you should have said that. He stared like he didn't recognize me, which felt fair. I didn't recognize me either. The me he knew would have caved and apologized for not caving correctly. He left without yelling. That scared me more than yelling would have. Friday, 3:22 p.m. The plan administrator emailed, hold lifted. Funds restored to beneficiary account. Future distributions require beneficiary authorization. I closed my eyes and let out a breath I hadn't noticed I'd been holding for 3 decades. When I got off shift, there were 35 new messages. Grace left a voicemail crying so hard words drowned, then a calmer one. I see. We'll remember this. Mom texted, family is forever, William. Unless you make it not. Dad wrote nothing. Saturday, I cleaned my apartment like a man getting ready to move. I didn't plan to move, just move differently. When something big ends, I scrub. I scrubbed the oven. I backed up my phone. I took my tools out of my truck, cleaned each one, rolled the wrenches back into their canvas wrap. I taped the emergency cash envelope to a new spot. I made a new routine, alarm at 5:30, even on off days. Coffee, walk, no phone before 8. Read one chapter from a book with no heroes in it. Meal prep. Call the one friend who always calls back. Miguel, the guy who taught me to weld aluminum without burning through. He listened and said, you didn't set a fire. You finally built a fence. Sunday night dinner came and went without me. Mom sent a photo. The table looked the same, one chair empty. She captioned it, we miss you. Then an hour later, another photo. Grace on the porch steps, face blotchy. Colin turned away. The caption, are you happy now? I put my phone face down. 2 weeks later, I got served. A man in a windbreaker knocked at the plant gate and asked for me. He handed me a folder I didn't want and didn't drop. The words inside were big and bogus. Conversion, equitable interest, family understanding. They asked for the $3,800 plus damages and legal fees. I read it twice, then a third time. My hands shook. Then they didn't. I called a lawyer whose number the credit union woman had given me just in case. He met me in a quiet office that smelled like stale coffee and copy paper. He read, put the papers down and said, they'll lose. It's noise, but it will be loud for a while. He smiled slightly. You okay with loud? Been living next to generators my whole adult life, I said. He told me to keep every text, to reply only through counsel, to not explain myself on Facebook. People will fill silence with whatever hurts them, he said. Let them. The next month was loud. Aunt Sandra posted a long status about children forgetting who raised them. A guy from high school I barely remember DM'd me, bro, just help your sis, lol. Grace's friend sent me quotes about karma. I muted names one by one like turning off breakers. At work, I picked up overtime. I started a small side job in a neighbor's garage. Custom metal shelves. Word spread. 2 orders became 5, became 9. I liked coming home smelling like work I chose. In the middle of all that, there were these moments of quiet that felt like the first time you take earplugs out after a shift. Late nights, windows open, the building creaking like honest wood. I'd sit at the table and just breathe. The biggest surprise was that I wasn't angry in those moments. I was light, not happy, something simpler, like standing up straight after years of crouching. One evening, Mom called from a new number. I answered because I didn't recognize it. Her voice was small. "You don't talk to me anymore," she said. "I'm talking now," I said. "You've changed," she said. "I stopped agreeing," I said. She sniffed. "Your father's ashamed." I pictured Dad alone in the den staring at the fish tank, the water needing a change. "That's his choice," I said. "He took something that wasn't his. He can be ashamed of that." She tried one last script. "Families share." "Families ask," I said, "and they hear no." She went quiet. Then she said something that was almost honest. "I didn't think you'd go through with it." "I didn't think you'd go through with it either," I said. We stayed quiet together. Then she hung up. The lawsuit fizzled faster than the Facebook drama. Their lawyer sent a single-page notice of dismissal without prejudice. My lawyer said they ran out of stomach or money or both. I got an email from the plan again. "Would you like to designate a contingent beneficiary?" I did. I chose me at 40. It was a dumb joke and a real plan at once. I transferred a small qualified amount to a trade course I've wanted to take for years, underwater welding certification. It's not cheap. It's not easy. It's mine. I didn't tell anyone. The first time I saw my parents again was 3 months later at the grocery store. They were in the cereal aisle arguing about coupons. Dad looked thinner. Mom looked tired. They saw me at the same time and both smiled like they could hit rewind by willpower alone. "Will," Mom said, reaching. I stood next to the cart, hands on the handle like it belonged to me. "Hey." Dad cleared his throat. "How's work?" "Good," I said. Grace wasn't there. I'd heard through Nora that the upgrade fell through, that they renewed their lease, that Colin's job went remote in a way that sounded like code for went away. I didn't ask. I didn't need to know. I knew enough. Mom said, "We should do dinner." I shook my head. "Not yet," her face fell. "You're punishing us." "No," I said. "I'm protecting me." Dad started to say something, then stopped. He looked at me, really looked. "You always were steady," he said, almost to himself. I didn't see how much we leaned. I nodded once. I did. We stood in the aisle between cheap cereal and the good stuff. I put a box of the brand name I wanted into my own cart. No one took it out. Later that week, I got a text from Grace, not paragraphs, not hashtags.
"One line, I'm sorry. I stared at it for a long time."
I typed, deleted, typed again. "I settled on truth. I hope you're okay. I won't be your bank. I will be your brother, if that comes with respect." She didn't reply that night. The next morning, a single word. "Okay. I don't know what our family will look like in a year. Maybe smaller. Maybe quieter. Maybe better because it's smaller and quieter. I know what my life looks like next week. Shift at the plant. 2 custom shelf orders. A night class syllabus that scares me in the right way. Coffee with Miguel on Saturday. A walk past the house where we grew up. Not because I miss it, but because I'm done avoiding it. People think closure feels like a gavel or a slam or a door locking. It didn't for me. It felt like a weld cooling clean, no spatter. The bead neat and even because you finally held your hand steady and trusted the line you marked. I won't let anyone rename my money family. I won't let anyone disguise betrayal as love. I won't let anyone twist the truth and turn me into the villain just because I spoke what needed to be said. I refuse to shrink myself to fit into a story that was never written for me. This isn't about revenge. It's about respect. It's about setting boundaries, creating something real, something that lasts even if I'm the only one who understands it. My name's William. I'm a welder. I mend what can be mended and walk away from what can't. For the first time, I'm crafting my own life. Steady, deliberate, and entirely mine.